Tēnā koutou katoa. It's Rachel Froggatt here, Chief Executive of Women in Sport Aotearoa here in New Zealand and Secretary General of the International Working Group on Women in Sport. And welcome to our latest Insight Bites with our partners at the Trans-Tasman Business Circle. Today, we've got a really interesting guest with us. It's actually a part of the sports sector we haven't really explored since the beginning of this COVID challenge that we're all in at the minute. So absolutely delighted today to welcome Michelle Wood, Performance Services Manager at Snow Sports New Zealand. Welcome, Michelle.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks for having me on.
Well, first of all, how are you? We're sort of in New Zealand for the rest of the world watching in. We're sort of semi-post-COVID. We're in a strange world where we're level 1 and we're just about normal, but the borders are closed. So what's the personal journey been like for you, Michelle, over the last couple of months?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like things are somewhat back to normal here, which is quite weird given what's going on in the rest of the world. Yeah, I guess looking back at what what the level 4, level 3 and 4 was like for us as a family, we got through it okay. We kind of took a little while to get into our groove of both my husband and I working at home with a couple of preschools running around. So it was a busy time, as it was for a lot of people, but we're really lucky to have awesome colleagues that we work with and really understanding employers that know that family comes first. So once we got the kind of first couple of weeks done, and we were probably, I guess, putting a bit much pressure on ourselves to try and do everything. And yeah, we actually got into a really nice groove and actually enjoyed it. And kind of looking back, it was just a really nice time at home with the kids, and feeling lucky that we've both got jobs and our health, and that as a country we're doing pretty well.
Well, we were just joking offline before we started that it was kind of trial by fire for you in some ways, because you've actually only been in this role since January. So,
yeah.
Imagine things have changed quite drastically. So maybe talk us through a little bit about what your job is and then what you've been dealing with, since this all kicked off.
Yeah. So the role I think you mentioned is Performance Services Manager. So it was a new role that was created. And I know that, the decision was made to put a bit more focus into this area leading into Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics. And so the main part of my role is working with our athlete performance support team that work with the athletes and coaches, and just leading that group of people. And the main purpose is to really connect them in with the coaches a bit better and make sure that they have that role clarity that they need in the direction of what they're doing in each campaign, like down to that really detailed level. And so there's that side of it with we have the HPSPNZ support services that they provide us. So we've got contracted and employed people in the sports science, sports medicine fields. And then we've also got our sports specific support staff. So we've got the wax tech and landing bag manager that fall under my role as well. And so I guess with any new role, it's evolving. And, we're kind of going through a process at the moment of, getting out the job description and looking at, am I doing kind of what we set out to in the beginning? And there are parts of the role that are evolving, and there's a lot of behind the scenes work that I'm involved in as well, just with the general running of the HP program, and kind of that link into HPSNZ as well.
And obviously, I think a lot of people would be aware, the Olympic and Paralympic cycle is a constant. Every 4 years you're getting the cycle again, and we're just under 2 years out from Beijing 2022.
Yeah.
How has COVID impacted planning? It really is literally at this point that you're starting the build. This would be where you'd be starting to begin towards the games, and at the moment the games are still on, and as far as we know they're still happening. But how do you plan for something that has a question mark over the top of it?
Yeah, it is really difficult. I mean, we got everyone back in March. It was the tail end of our season, so there were a few events that they unfortunately did miss, but got everyone back, and they missed a couple of the spring training camps that they'd normally go to. But at the moment it's fine, because we're in our winter. We can ski, we've got good snow, we can snowboard, and so everyone's pretty happy, and it's going okay. But the challenge for us is when we can get people back on a plane again. And so we're due to kick off Northern Hemisphere season in November, and it's still in the plans to do that. But we're planning for kind of plan A, B, and C, depending on when we can get on a plane, really. So, and it does make it difficult to plan for, because we've got staff that have other commitments as well, and even just looking at the time that quarantine adds on to a trip, we're not going to be able to do those quick, send staff over to pop overseas for a couple of weeks, because that turns into a month trip for them. So we're kind of trying to just plan what we can at the moment, but have flexibility within that, just knowing that things will evolve over the next few months.
And obviously the last Winter Olympics and Paralympics were pretty successful for New Zealand. The program has been growing dramatically over the last couple of cycles, and we're heading towards Beijing with some amazing athletes, in training. So maybe give us a bit of a picture of, if all goes well and everything pans out as we hope, what can we expect from the campaign?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got, like you said, we had a really successful campaign 2018 Pyeongchang, and just hoping to build on that. Really, we've got some good depth coming through. So we've still got obviously our medalists from Pyeongchang in the program, and they will be for a while. They're so young, but we've also got some young athletes coming through as well, which is exciting, in the able-bodied space and the adaptive space as well. So we're pretty excited about that. And team size, we'll have to wait and see, because the window for qualification will be from November onwards. So we'll know a bit more once we get through this upcoming Northern Hemisphere season about how big the team size will be. But definitely hoping to have a few first-time Olympians and Paralympic Olympians as well, who will kind of get that experience to go on for the next cycle too.
And obviously I have a bit of an affinity with the Paralympic program, having worked with Paralympics New Zealand for several years, and Pyeongchang was really exciting in terms of watching the performances, and obviously Adam Hall was outstanding again from a New Zealand standpoint, as well as Corey Peters and Carl Murphy. But we used to lament the fact that we didn't have any female Paralympians representing. But I hear there's some changes coming through, and there's some emerging athletes coming through we should be watching out for.
Yeah, we do have, we're hoping to have probably one more athlete carded from October onwards, who's doing great. And yeah, you're right, we do have a couple of female athletes coming through, probably more in that pre-HPAD space. So I think we need to wait and see how those athletes go, over the upcoming season, and see what they can do. They're still pretty young and pretty new. So, but yeah, definitely, and talking to Jane Stevens, who manages our adaptive program, we've got the Adaptive Snow Sports Festival coming up this weekend, and coming next weekend, and there's a development camp as part of that. And I think we've got 5 out of the 6, or 6 out of the 7 or something, the female athletes coming. So there's definitely some good talent coming through in that space, which is exciting.
Well, I just think it'd be amazing to have a female sit skier, because I used to watch Corey, as a sit skier.
Yeah.
And mental, they're absolutely mental, going down a mountain,
incredible.
Single ski, sitting on it is crazy, but it's just such a cool thing to watch as a competitive sport as well.
It is, yeah, and we're lucky to have such great role models, and people like Adam and Corey that are still going, and Carl, who's now retired.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously the government response to COVID has been really strong and very quick, and that you guys, Snow Sports New Zealand, have received support directly. I think it'd be great to kind of talk through what that means for you.
Yeah. We're really feeling really fortunate that we were able to access some of that resource that came through in the COVID response fund from Sport New Zealand. So we were in quite a difficult situation kind of coming into our Southern Hemisphere winter, and I guess firstly not knowing if the ski fields would be able to open. There was that period of time during level 4 where that was just all uncertain, up in the air, and even if we were at level 2, they still weren't sure if they could open. So and if it would be financially viable for them without the international market coming in, that's pretty tough. Obviously they rely on international tourism pretty heavily. So we were in a position where we're having to pay for some of the build of the daily training environment up at Cardrona that we haven't had to in the past, just because it's so tough for them at the moment, and for any ski resort without the international market. So we were really lucky to get that money from Sport New Zealand, and that's gone into, we'll be building a half pipe in August. We've got our landing bag up and running already. The rail project's done. We've got a few other features like that, so that the athletes can actually get up there and get some quality training, and that that was even a question mark a few months ago. So pretty excited to have that resource now. And the other thing we're working on and thinking kind of into the future as well, and with the, I guess with the uncertainty around international travel and also knowing the cost of international travel and the future is going to be more, we're really looking at what we can do to provide I guess a better daily training environment in New Zealand. And part of that is we're scoping out a project at the moment to build a dry slope training facility. And that's, you know, looking around the world, most of our competitors have access to something like that now. And we normally just jump on a plane and we go somewhere else to access it. And that's not as realistic to do these days. So we're trying hard on that. And yeah, I mean, it's been on the list for a while, but I think it's just really come to the forefront now because of COVID that we really need this facility. So we are working on, like I said, scoping that out and trying to access some funding from Sport New Zealand if we can for that, because it's going to be crucial to the Beijing campaigns, but also beyond as well, and getting those young kids to be able to progress right through and not have to jump on a plane to do that's going to be pretty crucial for us.
It's quite interesting, isn't it? Because there's whilst COVID has been really challenging, in some ways there are potential silver linings, you know, in escalating certain plans that you already wanted to do, but actually now have to do. It becomes such a critical part of the pathway forward. And so perhaps we actually may end up with benefits to the winter program because of COVID, which is a funny thing to talk about, really.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think we could, yeah.
So you yourself, you've been in high performance, you know, the high performance world for quite a number of years, previously at Athletics New Zealand and a few other roles. You know, what's your journey been like, you know, as a leader coming through the system and landing where you are now?
Yeah, so I was at Athletics New Zealand, like you mentioned, for 10 years, leading into this role and in the high performance program as well. And yeah, went through, I guess, quite a journey. You know, that was literally my first job. I was a cyclist before that, living and racing overseas, and went back and studied and then got this job at Athletics New Zealand that it kind of evolved over the 10 years. So initially started out more as an athlete support role, and then more recently it was leading the coaches that were employed in the high performance program, as well as looking after the athlete performance support space too. So yeah, it was yeah, I mean, amazing opportunity and a great, you know, team of people to work with. And you know, I was very comfortable there. It was definitely in my comfort zone, and that was part of the, I guess, the attraction with this role is that I don't have a background in snow sports. I know high performance really well, and I know the sporting system in New Zealand really well, and I wasn't looking to move on, but it was just something that was really exciting about the role and I think the opportunity, I guess, and the potential that snow sports have is, you know, really excited me, and I thought I could help. So yeah, kind of took a leap of faith and applied for the role. And yeah, so based in Auckland though, so that's kind of one of the challenges we're working through is me being in Auckland, away from the rest of the team, traveling down once a month. But there are advantages to that, and that we do have a presence in Auckland and at HPSPNZ, which is really good. And a lot of the people I'm dealing with are actually at HPSPNZ in Auckland, so that side of it's quite nice. It's just trying to get down to Wanaka enough to spend enough time with the team, you know, to build those relationships. And that was tough over COVID because I was, you know, literally building relationships over Zoom, which is pretty hard to do.
I think we're all getting a little bit better at that, I think.
Yeah, I think so. We've definitely all adjusted a bit, haven't we?
I totally agree. And I guess, you know, a question I always like to ask is, you know, you've had a really successful journey through the high performance system, but it still can be a challenging environment for women coming into roles in what has quite a male dominated world. You know, if anyone was watching this and they were thinking that this was a direction they wanted to take with their career or a move they wanted to do, what advice or what stories could you share that, you know, perhaps they should think about?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I guess you know, I feel quite fortunate to have been working with really supportive people during my time at Athletics. So I had 2 children during that time and had, you know, time off at home and coming back part-time, and that, you know, that was a big thing for me. That's why, you know, I was so loyal and you know, stayed around for so long, because it was such a good supportive environment. And I know not everyone gets that, which is really tough. And I think, you know, you see full-time roles come up, and I think maybe a lot of females just aren't, maybe they're not stupid enough like me to apply for a full-time role based in another city or another town. But yeah, I think it's just, you know, as a system supporting females to kind of step up and apply for those leadership roles when they do come up. And, you know, we've got, HPSNZ have done a great job, obviously, in a lot of other organisations. You know, we've got Sonia Bola now leading, you know, the Women in Sport project at HPSNZ, and she's doing a really good job. My position actually here is funded by the Women in Sport Residency program. So I'm part of that group. So we've got a leadership cohort and a coaching cohort, and we meet up regularly, and we've got access to PD money, which is great. It's amazing opportunities that, you know, we haven't always had. So I think just, you know, I guess we've got things like that going on, and just, I think just, you know, supporting the females that are already in the system as well to have access so that they can apply for those roles when they do come up. I think that's super important. But yeah, I mean, you look around now, and I think there are a lot more females in leadership roles in sport than we have had in the past. So hopefully that visibility is helping, and people know that there is a pathway for them and opportunities, and that it doesn't have to be your typical 9 to 5 as well. I think that's the big thing, is that I think more employers are getting more flexible on what they expect out of their employees. And I think that's really important, because not all of us can work your typical 9 to 5, you know, with other demands. So, yeah.
Well, I think that it's so funny, these little insight bites, they go so quickly, because we're actually already at the 15-minute mark, would you believe? So it's been absolutely amazing to talk to you, Michelle, and really congratulations on the work that you're doing, and really pushing, you know, new boundaries and new frontiers for women in the high performance system, obviously, as you say, with the support of High Performance Sport New Zealand as well. So if we were to sign off here, and you were to give one last piece of advice to anybody, you know, looking to follow in your footsteps, what would that be? Put you on the spot.
Oh, wow. I think just take the opportunities that come up. And yeah, I think looking back, there's been I think I've tried to kind of grab every opportunity I can with both hands. I think that's probably my biggest advice is look out for, you know, for what's out there, and grab the opportunities when they come up, and it'll work out, you know. I think there's always kind of the what ifs, but I think I guess especially for females trying to get into leadership roles, is just jump into it and give it a go.
Yeah. Don't hesitate.
Yeah, exactly.
The big message. Yep. It's been wonderful to be talking to Michelle Wood, Performance Services Manager at Snow Sports New Zealand, in our latest Insight Bites in a partnership with the Trans-Tasman Business Circle. Ka kite anō.
Thanks for having me.